What is engine? Engine, a device that converts any type of energy into mechanical force and motion. First step, remove the cylinder head. What is cylinder head? Cylinder head is an engine compartment which seals the top of the combustion chamber. It is mounted on the top of engine housing. Here we remove the cylinder head. Second, remove the cylinder block. What is cylinder block? Cylinder block is one of your engine's central components. It plays a key role in the lubrication. After we removed the cylinder block, it was easier to access the transmission part. Here you need to remove the clutch cover with 8mm bolts. Just use 8mm T-rings to remove it. After you remove the clutch cover, you can easily to access clutch housing. The clutch housing has for bolts 10mm bolts that need to be removed to access the clutch plate. Here we use an impact wrench because it is hard and requires stronger forces to remove the 4 bolts. After we remove the 4 bolts, here we check the clutch spring to see if it is still okay, and if not, it needs to be replaced. And when we check the clutch plate here, we also checked if it needed to be replaced. Here we need to use an impact wrench again to remove the center bolts of the clutch assembly. When it's removed, it has a lock washer in the middle. Don't forget it, especially when you reattach it, because the clutch can slide and it won't work. Here in the primary gear of the clutch, it is also necessary to use an impact so that the gear is not damaged or out of alignment. Here we need to remove the fuel pump. To remove it, we need to use an impact screw so that the screw bolt does not break. It has 3 screw bolts. After removing the fuel pump, you also need to check if it's still strong enough to pump oil. To check it, you just need to cover the 2 holes and turn the gear. If the pressure is still strong, it's still okay. Next, we need to remove the lock of the idle gear. It has a circlip. When it is removed, first you need to check if the clearance of the bushing is okay, and if it is not, then it needs to be replaced first because it can be the source of engine noise. Here we turn the engine so that we can remove the bolts, so that both parts of the engine, the part of the magneto and the clutch, are separated. Finally, we remove the crankshaft and notice that it needed to be replaced because its bearings were wobbly, which was the source of the engine noise. When the crankshaft is removed first, you have to go to a machine shop because it cannot be removed with a hammer, but a machine that needs to press the lock because it is so hard. It will take 1 ton of press just to remove it. Here we have attached the crankshaft, and it is necessary to use a torch and straighten it so that it is easier to attach it. And there is no need to hit it with a hammer, because there is a possibility that it will be out of alignment when it is attached. It is necessary to put a little oil to avoid scratching the parts of the engine. Here we have attached both parts of the engine, the clutch side and the magneto side. Here we are attaching the parts of the clutch side. The last thing that will be attached here is the clutch assembly to be completed and closed. Here we have also changed a new gasket, because the old one is broken, which can be the source of oil leakage. If not replaced, the oil can run out. When it runs out, it can overheat and can damage the parts. It will have friction because oil is an important thing in the engine. It makes the engine work better, and it also prolongs the life of the engine. When you finish attaching the gasket, put the clutch cover and put back the 8mm bolts. It is no longer necessary to use an impact wrench because it is too strong. It can be loose tread, and when returning the bolts, you need to use a sequence to apply properly and evenly when attaching in this sequence. The middle part must be pressed first. The head surface must be cleaned pattern sequence before installing a new head gasket to prevent loose compression. When adjusting the valve clearance, it is necessary to use a feeler gauge to make it more accurate. Here in this part, we have adjusted the valve clearance. To adjust the valve clearance needs to be higher, the clearance of the exhaust valve. To the intake valve, here the clearance we used on the exhaust is 5 mm and on the intake valve is 4 mm.